Mass News is your school authority. As the search continues for the next superintendent of Springfield Public Schools, a meeting tonight gave the public a chance to weigh in. Western Mass News reporter Matt Price is live for us now in studio with more. And Matt, I understand emotions did run a little high.
That is correct, Chris. We were at the meeting inside the Springfield Central High School Theater from start to finish. For the Ad Hoc Superintendent Selection Advisory Committee, it was meant to be a space for students and other community members to give input on what they want to see from the next leader of Springfield Public Schools. However, that was not the only thing discussed.
A couple questions. How many students are on this whole search committee?
Tuesday evening was an opportunity for the public, especially those from Springfield Public Schools, to share their thoughts on what qualities they want in the next leader of the school district, with current Superintendent Dan Warwick retiring after this school year. But there was also frustration expressed at the search process itself, as several people claim there's no student representation on the committee handling the search. Ad hoc committee chair Chris Collins telling everyone there was an attempt at reaching out to get at least one student representative, but no one responded.
The advertisement for the entire search committee was advertised in multiple areas. It was not advertised in one. It was announced in all the schools. It was on television. It was in the newspaper.
However, students like Springfield Honors Academy junior Naomi Edwards say otherwise.
Each student has a Springfield Public Schools email. I didn't receive that in my Springfield Public Schools email. There was no Instagram post. There was no robocall. And I guess my disappointment with that is that I know they can robocall because they do it for snow days and whatnot.
Western Mass News also spoke with Lee Burgess, a teacher at STEM Middle Academy, who says there was no attempt to reach out to students.
They keep calling these meetings listening sessions, but it doesn't feel like very much is being heard, especially when I come from the perspective of thinking about student voices being part of the process itself. It seems like a very large omission to have students not be part of the process.
Despite these interactions, there were some who shared with the committee what qualities they are looking for in the district's next superintendent. Edwards was among them, saying she believes that leader should accurately reflect the student body.
We are predominantly people of color. It shouldn't be someone who's getting hired through their connections and not someone selected by staff within the not so neutral Springfield Public Schools district. Unfortunately, due to miscommunication, I couldn't be a part of the screening committee that once again has no students, and I would have loved to be on it if I knew I could apply.
Many say they want someone who's highly qualified and is mindful, caring, and understanding of all students, especially those from different racial and ethnic backgrounds. Public safety is also a concern following last month's shooting incident at the High School of Science and Technology.
That person would be able to come in and speak to those needs, but then also create a logistical environment wherein those needs can be met. We have bodies of literature, bodies of data, and bodies of anecdotal data that tell us what keeps us safe and what makes our students safer, and I don't believe that we are operating from that body of knowledge.
We should know what was recorded today will be sent to the Springfield School Committee. The next community meeting for public input will be next Tuesday at 5 o'clock at DeBerry Swan Elementary School. And Naomi Edwards confirmed to us she will be in attendance for that, as well as the rest of the public inputs throughout this process. The hope is to have a final choice made for the position at the end of May. Reporting live in the studio, Matt Price, Western Mass News.
Thanks.